What would you do if you had a sizable budget to buy books? What kind of books would you buy? How would you make the choice? This video is about the kind of books I would suggest to buy. So if you're interested in this, keep watching. One of my previous videos was about the cost of research. That is the cost of books and articles we use in the course of our research when we are writing our own book. And one of the comments to that video was by Avital, who said she was surprised by the actual number. And then she wrote that now that she's a postdoc researcher, she actually has a bit of a budget to buy books. And her question was what kind of books I would suggest to buy. And she herself said she was thinking about two kinds of books to buy. The first one was very general reference works, the ones that she could use on for many years while she's doing research or engaged in teaching. The other kind of books she was thinking about buying were very specific titles in her own niche field, including the ones that had just come out. And of course I completely agree with these two choices, but I thought I could add a few of my own points, thinking about what would I do if I had a larger research budget specifically to buy books. So continuing Avital's 2 points, I would add a third, saying that I would buy books that I want to work closely with. The ones that I want to annotate and mark up, because I obviously cannot do this with a library book. So these are books that I would use to study closely, and I would add my own notes to it in pencil or even in pen, and perhaps even underline things in different colors. Because I think that kind of engagement with a book is actually part of research. And often I think it's easier to create something that way than start with a blank page trying to type up an article. And to this I would also add a fourth point, namely that I would buy books on which I can get a good deal. So these would include some hard to come by academic books that I don't necessarily need immediately, but I just simply found a deal that I cannot refuse. So let's say if there's a book that cannot be bought, and usually it would cost about £400, but I can buy it in a small European bookshop for about €40, I would not hesitate to buy it. And I'm not thinking about reselling the books, but sometimes you can just find deals you cannot refuse. And number 5, I would also buy books that I need for my research, but I cannot find them in the library. Because using the interlibrary loan system, I would only be able to read them in a reading room, and then after a few weeks the book would have to go back to its original place. So rather than always asking for the book, I would probably just buy it. Except in cases when the part that I need is not that long, and then I would simply use my phone to take pictures of the relevant pages. So the next category would be books that got completely damaged but I'm still using them. Not all books are made equal and their quality can differ. And I have some books that I've used for years and they have completely come apart. And in those cases, I would opt to buy a new one to replace the damaged one, which might also be missing pages already. And then finally, I would also buy books that I really like and value in order to give them to others. One of my professors at Berkeley came back from a visit to China with a big stack of copies of a classical Chinese dictionary, and he gave each of us a copy. And I think this was a wonderful thing because I think this was a dictionary that he really recommended, but it was of course unavailable in the US. And as an academic, I also want to be able to give my students books that I really like, especially if they're not that expensive. So I would happily use my research funds to occasionally buy books like that. Okay, so these are my additions to Avital's 2 points. I hope they were useful. Thank you for watching and see you next time.